from Havili was magic. The shift on for Scotty. Boom, far down you go, Quackett Smith. Me, oh my, I have enjoyed that. Yes, boy.
Draft Rugby, the game they play online in heaven.
Welcome to Season 10, Episode 5 of the Draft Rugby Show. This episode, we are focusing on all your draft tactics and looking at some stats, your VOLP, your everything that you need to know for your drafts. This is the show you want to listen to. Parts of it are a continuation of our last week's episode interviewing with Nick Frost, who was an absolutely brilliant guest on the show, and we greatly enjoyed chatting fantasy and just talking shop with him. It was absolutely brilliant. Of course, I'm joined today by Harry. Harry, how are you? How did you enjoy that pod with Nick last week?
Good, mate. Lots of fun, lots of really positive feedback. He's a good man and he loves his fantasy sports, which is great, and it was good hearing his stories about it.
That's it. And I think we all agreed that now you can rely on Nick to not be making that last pass, scoring the try himself, and just padding the stats. So definitely someone you're going to want to pick up in your fantasy team this year. But
yeah.
Now, some news. No bigger news than it is time to sign up to draftrugby.com. It is time to enlist your closest mates, work friends, enemies, family members, anyone who, I don't care if they've never heard of rugby. It's time to play draftrugby.com. Super Rugby Pacific is open. You can create leagues. You can draft, and it's time to get there. We now just need you, the users, to get in and start playing. Very excited about that. Harry, you've just the blog for the previews are all out, and you've just been working away hard on the casualty ward. How are we going with that one?
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, like you said, the content is coming out thick and fast at the moment. This is obviously our draft episode, our fantasy episode, where we get into the nitty-gritty about all the stats, the value-based drafting tactics, some of that kind of stuff as well. So there's going to be so much information in this podcast, and make sure you get a pad and pen, and you might end up having to listen to it a couple of times. But yeah, the casualty ward is all but written. It's been released already to the paid subscribers on our Substack. And once we get the final graphic design from Nels, then I'll be releasing it hopefully in the next kind of 24, 48 hours. So probably before this is even actually published. So make sure you're checking that, and hopefully we get plenty of updates from the trials and injuries as well.
And a good call out there to, if you'd like to support us, please sign up to the Substack. At the moment, draftrugby.com is a free website, and we want to keep it free. We want the game to be free for people to play. We are working away on a Draft Rugby Pro subscription where we're going to add some more advanced features. It's not a pay-to-win type scenario. It's just it makes your life a little bit easier. So, but although as we have said on previous podcasts, if you do want to pay us a lot of money to make sure you win your league, we have rubber arms. They can be
we'll make sure we put that in every episode now, I think. Also, guys, the other thing that you'll see out on socials is the draft board series that we're putting out right now. So we've had a lot of support, which has been so good, and we're very, very thankful from current players, ex-players, rugby journos. We got Lottie Dakiri, that would probably just come out by now. Harry Wilson, the Wallabies captain. Nick Frost, who was on the pod. We got Matt Phillips sent his tip picks through. So the guys are getting around it. All the rugby journos, Atco Knows, Brett McKay, everyone. I can't name them all, but it's been awesome to have so much support from them. And keep on checking the socials on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, where we put it up, because it's good seeing the tips from the other guys and who they think is going to have a big year. Sometimes they're biased. Harry Wilson's, I love his top pick. He's a good player. His first pick, you'll have to wait and see who it is, but I reckon you can guess who it is without seeing his pick as well. So some of those are good fun. But plenty of content, mate. So just keep your eyes on the socials.
That's it. I think Nelson's seeing squares now with just all the images that he's working away on, which is great.
That's right.
Cool. Then look on to the breaking news, I guess. So the breaking news we've got, was it today or yesterday? Virimi Vakatawa signing on for the Fijian Drua and straight into action today, playing in the trial game. So that's super exciting, I have to say. He's, for those who don't know, Vakatawa, he's just signed from the Drua from the Bristol Bears, where he was playing for the last couple of years. But before that, he racked up 145 caps for Racing 92 over in France, 31 caps for France, for the French rugby team, and 82. He played in 82 rugby sevens tournaments for the French team as well. A hell of a player. So pretty excited about that.
And yeah, he didn't play like all of last year for Bristol Bears, but I think he went back to the Indrua in like September last year. So he's been with them for a long while, actually. When I went digging, it looked like they actually named him as a signing of a Super Rugby player in their local competition for like 15 minutes, and then they brought it down. And some Fijian journalist has like grabbed a hold of it and gone, "Oh, is this the announcement?" And that was like October. And now finally it comes out. But he played in the local comp in Fiji and helped his title win. He played at second five as well, so you might be seeing a lot of him at 12 as well.
And that's just what I was going to say. So I did manage to catch 17 minutes of the Chiefs Drua trial game at Mount Maunganui today. Yeah, hilariously, I could tell you what happened. The stream went down. Stream was only available on Chiefs Pass, which is the Chiefs subscription product. And I think it went down because the Drua tweeted out a link to it and would have immediately had tens of thousands of Fijian supporters signing up to a free Chiefs Pass trial and trying to get on the stream. So that was a lot of fun. But I can tell you in those 17 minutes, Vakatawa was in the 12 jersey and he looked immense. He was absolutely dominant. So I was very excited.
That's enough for you to have him in a top 2 round draft pick, right?
I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it. You know what I mean?
And another quick news: Rhys-Jan Pasatoa played the second half at 10 for the Highlanders. Another one you watched, mate. He was very good.
I did. Look, I thought he was the player of the second half almost. I won't say I was watching it 100%. I was kind of on in the background, but he looked incredible. He was putting in crossfield kicks, looks in really good form. Still has that speed and agility about him, but making some great little drop passes, some cutouts out the Tangatau on the wing and things like that. He looked really, really good. So it looks like Cam Miller is probably going to be the 10 for the Highlanders, but who knows? You know what I mean? We said, why is it that he's moved over to New Zealand to be playing at a team to be playing somewhere at 10? But maybe Jamie Joseph sees what we saw years ago, and that could be exciting. So keep your eyes out, watch this space for him, I guess.
Yeah. And a quick update on the trial scores that we have seen is obviously Friday on time of recording. So we had the Force last weekend playing the Reds 21-19. The Force got up with a last minute try. The Blues today played the Hurricanes at Sacred College. From what we can find, it's 44-36 to the Blues. That one wasn't actually televised. The Chiefs got over the Ndrua 47-31. The Crusaders got over the Highlanders 33-10, where they just both ran out completely different teams in either side. The Western Force got over the Brumbies 42-12, and that was 35-0 at one point as well. So the Western Force, a couple of good trial forms. The Brumbies looked a little bit toothless from the bits and pieces I saw. So yeah, very interesting. You don't win in the preseason, but some interesting results.
100%. And a few of those games you can find on YouTube now. So if you just Google the two teams 2026 preseason, you'll find them on YouTube. But I will say again, I don't like attacking Super Rugby, but it's some poor form that these preseason games aren't promoted and easily access the links to watch them, because everyone wants to watch it and it's getting hyped for the build up.
Yeah,
just not doing a great job of that. So, but in the last trial of this weekend, tomorrow it will be on Stan Sport. The Reds are playing the Waratahs, and I am up in Brisbane for it. So I'm going to Ballymore for my first ever time, which will be great. And so come and say hi. I even bought a Draft Rugby shirt, got a big QR code on the back. So if you see me, come say hi. But otherwise, I'm really looking forward to that. A lot of exciting things in that Reds Tars game, namely watching Trevon Pritchard starting on the right wing. That'll be something. So I could say I was there at the start. I'll have that over Nelson now. So
Nelson's not a real fan, despite how much he talks about him.
Yeah, that's it.
All right. Well, should we let's look out so we don't keep Nick on here for another 2 hours, which I'd love to do. But should we start looking ahead to Super Rugby 2026? We have already asked Nick to check out the scoring system and platform, but also to give us his top 3 fantasy picks for the Super Rugby 2026 competition. If you're watching us on YouTube, Harry's just chucked up an image, which you can see on Twitter as well, which is the Draft Rugby draft board. Take us through your top 3 picks and why you went with them.
So I went with Charlie Cale. He's played a full year. He only played a handful of games last year. He struggled a fair bit with his back. But no, he's a very talented, very quick and talented forward. In the clips you probably saw him playing in 2024 out wide, but mainly in the line out too. There's a fair bit of line out ball he'll steal from opposition, which he's bloody good at, and then obviously receiving ball himself, so that picks up points to that base. But just his ability out wide, I think his line breaks, tries, not that people don't know about him, but he only played a handful of games last year, so it's potentially one that people don't really doesn't jump off the page to pick.
Is it just me, or is there any PS Space comparisons being chucked out there as a bit of a specimen? Was that just something that I've thrown out?
Yeah,
or I'm inflating his head too much.
Yeah, you're inflating his head too much. No, he's an athlete, but he doesn't have the physique like that.
He was pretty unique. He was actually one that I wanted to put in. We're all going to name top three players after yours. So you've taken these out of the equation for us for our top three. But Kale, I think he was averaging 50 points, or he was the top couple for back rowers. He just obviously didn't get enough game time. But yeah, I think he's a cracking shout.
Yeah, that's kind of what I realized as well. Obviously, I trained with him, but yeah, so he's had that kind of majority of the year off, and he's got a fair bit of talent.
Come back better. Who have you got in your number two and number three?
This one's probably one of the higher picks, but yeah, Cam Royguide.
Yeah.
Just as a player, I think he's bloody good player, and his engine, his work rate around the field. I know defending him is quite tough as a taller guy, around the ruck. He always, has a little scoot, gets out, beat you for speed, beat you for strength, and it's quite hard to defend him, especially later on in the game. And, he picks up easy tackle breaks and line breaks and he try assists. And I think the form he's been in, he's been one of the top nines in the world, to be honest. I know Dupont's been out injured, but he's been pretty damn close to being one of the top nines at a test level. And then Super Rugby is just quicker and a fair bit looser, so it just suits him to a T.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's a great shout. He was like maybe number one overall pick a couple of years ago before he did his knee as well. So he's come back with a vengeance last season for sure.
Yep. And then my third is just I wanted to put, another Australian in here, but no, we're going with Jorgo. Again, still so young, which I forget about. He's 20, 21, which is crazy to think of. But yeah, I think if he gets enough time, I know he's had a fair few injury runs at the Super Rugby level. So I think if he, plays a full season, adjusting to his body, but he's very talented. The Waratahs are always going to get better. They had a bit of a low point a few years ago, and it takes time to build as a team. They're recruited pretty well. They've had Dan there for a couple of seasons, so I can see them doing a bit better as a club themselves. And Jorgo's, we saw in the Lions series, he's got some freakish ability to score tries and do stuff. And again, that's against the Lions. So I wanted to put Australian in, and that's where my Jorgo.
No, we're happy to see a Waratahs guy in there. And on that, we're all Waratahs fans, and we probably share the opinion that one of the things the Waratahs are missing are a frost-shaped figure in the locks. So anytime you want to come across, we'll welcome you back.
Yeah.
Well, Nelson, you've written down the order for me favorably for once. So we're saying that we're all going to go pick our top three for the season, and we can't.
We're going 1-1-1, 2-2-2, 3-3, mate. You don't just get to take the low hanging fruit.
Oh, I thought you left it. You give me the layup here. All right, well, I'll go first then. The low hanging fruit, Damien McKenzie. Pretty hard for him not to top. He came with a top fantasy score last year, as he's done in there or nearabouts almost every year. So don't really need to say anything else about him. He's just exceptional at fantasy footy.
I'm going another low-hanging fruit. Timothy Tavatavanawai transitioned into the centres extremely well last year. And there was a few new players coming that we were excited about for the Highlanders. Obviously, some changes where we thought they were going to improve. But again, it doesn't really matter who else is there. When you've got Tavatavanawai, just give the man the ball, especially with the new fantasy side.
Have you had to tackle him, Nick? Speaking of strength and ability, man, how do you tackle that bloke?
I think it was him last year. We played him at GAO, and I think we had a coach's game, but the last just like 10 minutes got really loose side to side, and didn't have many. I just remember being on an edge trying to defend, and I ran a fair bit away across field to not actually miss the tackle and not do a whole lot. and he just kind of went straight back through me on the left shoulder and just fell over. Yeah, he's pretty hard to get down in tight, but even in the loose, like he's skillful and takes off and gets over the ball. Like he does it all.
He had like 20 turnovers for the year or something. He's a
Yeah.
freak.
And to be
He's
fair,
an
something, sorry,
all-round
before we
player.
get to you, Harry, something we should come back to a bit. I feel like we need more, there's more nicknames for a lot of the Kiwi players. Like he's known as Jim the Difference, Timothy Tamatavainua. And I love that. Do you know what I mean? Like I loved all the NBA player and
Yeah.
nicknames back there. We need more of those in Aussie rugby. So are there any in the Brumbies? Are there any nicknames like that? Have you got?
No, there's a lot of nicknames, like standard nicknames, but
Yeah.
not off the top of my head. Of
No.
just like, that's their kind of
Yeah.
appropriate big nickname. But yeah,
But
there's a lot of just like classic ones that obviously go with last names.
Yeah, none of the ones like the truth or all those things, all those like great ones. Okay,
It's just the Tongan anything, isn't it, normally for some of the
Yeah.
Islander boys?
yeah. Yeah, true. All right, well, Harry, you're up. Who have you got?
Yeah, mate. Oh, while we're doing top picks, I'll go Will Jordan so no one else can have him. Surely back to his best.
Sweet as. All right, well, for me, I'm going to go Caleb Tangatau. Talking of fantasy players, he has proven himself as a player who will never pass the ball. So if you want a hot tip from us, Nick, if he looks like he's dumming, he's not. I don't think he's ever dummied or passed it back inside in his life. If he gets it on the outside, he's exactly what you want as a fantasy manager. So I think he'll have an even bigger year this year.
Going out there on the limbs with the trend here, but I'm going to go Billy Proctor. He just came from strength to strength last year. Obviously, earned his way into those All Blacks jerseys and absolute weapon.
Yeah, you guys just reading top to bottom from the top from last year, I see. Nani Lamape, I'll go, boys. I reckon if Artie Sevilla needed a man to replace him as just taking all the attacking stats for the entire team, Nani's going to be the man. So I remember him back in the day when he was in Super Rugby being an absolute menace. Did you ever play him, Frosty? Was he there when you were coming through?
Nah, I don't think so. My first year was 2020, so he would have left by then. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think it was a tough weekend if you were facing inside center facing him back when he was at the Hurricanes. It was you were not
That's
looking forward to that.
Is it 2020, something like that? So it's probably spot on.
Yeah,
Right, Cargie, who do you have as your third? Are you going to go out there on a limb with someone, or are you just going to keep reading from the top?
Oh, I thought I'd already done my three. Who am I going to go in my third? I feel like you just got to go with probably. I'm going to go with Sevu Reece just again. I think the Crusaders, they won last year. They're going to get even stronger this year. Fanganuku actually is who I wanted to say. Lester Fanganuku. So I've just taken two there. You guys can't say either of them, but both the Crusaders wingers.
I wanted Fanganuku, to be honest, but I'm going to go Ruben Love. I think he is much further down this list than he ended up, obviously with his injury and that sort of stuff, but Ruben Love is going to have a cracker.
And I'll get another Aussie in there, Harry Wilson. Captain Fantastic.
Once he comes back from his injury.
I would say it's really disappointing that Frost is on the podcast and none of us said him.
Mate, I know how the locks score compared to other people. Take no offense.
And he passed the humble test. He didn't put himself down. All the three of us, if we were on this podcast, would have put ourselves down.
100%. Yeah, without a doubt.
Well, I thought we were going to put some players that, well, obviously I knew like Rory Guard's a big pick, but taking McKenzie, like everyone knows you're going to pick him anyway. So
yeah, pretty cool.
Come on, you just read the top list.
I did say the low hanging fruit, but the thing is, when you've been in like the top 3 or top 5 every year since you've started playing Super Rugby, he's going to be there, I guess. But that's true. It was pretty easy, mate. Yep.
We do a hot shit podcast, which we've already done this year, which we talk about all the young guys coming through and who we think the new hot shit is going to be for the season. So this one, I think for the most part, is we're going tried and tested for a lot of these players.
And on that, Nick, who's the new hot shit coming through the Brumbies?
I'll just go with Lockie Shaw. I think I picked Charlie a few years back, but Shawry. So Lockie Shaw, he'll played a fair bit last year, second row off the bench and whatnot. But no, he's again surprisingly still young, which scares me. I forget about that. I feel like I'm getting old compared to him. But no, I reckon he'll be pretty solid. Just from our team point of view.
Did,
Nelson's got to mention Shane Wilcox though. How's he shaping up?
I'm a big Wilcox fan, but I was actually going to mention Cargie. You should be happy about this. Linton Ieli, like as a,
Oh
as a
yeah,
21-year-old
Nah, he'd be
prop,
good.
he's another exciting one coming through.
Yeah. We've obviously got Slips is still going for his last year to clean up all the milestones. Then we've got LinkedIn and Shoppy there too. So we're actually pretty good on the loose head side.
Yep.
LinkedIn is very handy.
And
All
Harry,
right, should we push on? Should we get to having a quick look at the 2025 tops of stats? It's always interesting to kind of review to remember what happened. So if we quickly run through some of these ones, I guess it's just who do we think scored the most tries in Super Rugby 2025? Does anyone remember off the top of their head? First person to gets points. I can see everyone madly looking at the stats.
I know Allan scored 8 tries, and I reckon he scored them from a meter or less. A meter over 8 tries, like 8 tries, and
is that
a meter total gained for 8 tries?
Mate, there's someone that you've already thrown shade on this podcast that came second for scoring tries.
Oh, Pollard.
Billy Pollard got 11. He tied with Corey Toole.
Yeah, and then
But number 1 was Carlo Dezano, 13 tries.
oh yeah,
That's right.
how good! Couple
What a
of
season
Aussies
from
up
him.
there.
Most line breaks, boys.
Tava.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's got to be Tava.
Nowhere near. All wrong.
Oh, no, it's Samisi Tupou. It's got to be Samisi Tupou.
Corey Toole, exactly.
Tool bag.
Oh,
Yeah, tackle bus. Come on.
well, that's got to be Samisi Tupou.
Yeah, it's Tava Nawai. That's right. Frosty, 1 point. We got one of them. Who had the most dominant carries?
The most dominant. Oh, who took a lot? So
I'll give you the top 3 because I don't think this stat gets discussed very much.
Artie Sevilla.
Carries Tava Nawai.
Ooh,
Surely Artie.
it wasn't Artie Sevilla. It wasn't. That blows my mind as well. He was down a little bit, yeah. What'd you say, Nels?
Oh, I was just going for Tava. I've said him for every one. So
Great.
And I've said Samisi Tupou for every single one. Is it him?
Samisi Tupou tied third with Quinn Tapia with 73.
Right.
Tanakai Vata got second on 77 despite only starting half the games, and Peter Lakai topped it on 79.
Wow. Yeah, nice. All right, we'll quick fire through them. What else we got?
Most meters. Don't know that my list is going to want to.
Is that a Corey Toole again? Most
Maybe
meters?
like a Tom Wright.
Yeah.
Mm.
Would be a good shout.
I might have to come back to that one because I'm going to have to go to our external site. Our site's killing me on that.
Pretty sure that's righty.
We'll just say it was right.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
It is. It was righty, and by a long way, 1,314 meters. And the next person was Matt Greeley with 878. So that's a substantial jump there. Yeah.
Impressive by Greeley, to be fair, too.
Yeah, for sure.
This is the one probably a little bit closer to home. Who won the most lineouts?
Darcy.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Darcy Swain was 79.
It was all Aussies. It was from memory. It was Darcy. Maybe it was Canham, and then it was Frost. I think.
That's it. Yep. And then Turbo Vai fourth. So there you go.
Yep.
But by a big drop, he only won 155, whereas Frosty had 74, Canham 76, and Darcy 79. So a lot more lineouts.
So call yourself a few more, and you'll top that. I reckon.
And
Who
then we
has
got
the most offloads?
Oh,
that's got to be Tava Nawai.
That's definitely in his arsenal.
I was thinking DMAC.
yeah.
No,
He's
Tava
very
second.
hard to get down.
Tava second on 18. Someone smoked him.
Wilso would have thrown a shit ton. Harry Wilson would have thrown a lot
Yeah, he loves
when he
him.
was playing, but he missed a fair few games, to be fair.
Yeah, not Wilson's. First was Sevu Reese, 27 offloads. Second place, 18.
No, well, see, this is why he's fantasy magic. You know what I mean?
He also topped the drop goals for the season with 1. For the record, I don't think we need to go back to that.
Oh God! All right, and what's the last one? Is it how many tackles?
Yeah, tackles, but tackles is fun. But dominant tackles
Frosty's
is
got to
more
be there
fun,
in there on
so-
the tackles, surely.
Carlo would be up there. Tom
Yeah.
Christie when he was here. Normally tops it. Tom Christie, Carlo. A lot of the open sides do.
Christie was there last year, wasn't
Yeah,
he? Was
Yeah,
yeah.
he
he?
was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did he play most of the season? He normally goes pretty
It's
well. Like he
Yeah.
normally.
So
Even Ryan Smith had a fair few.
Tom Christie fourth,
Oh,
and Smith not in the top few.
Yeah, right.
We got Papali'i third, Karifi second on 220, Leo Willie first on 222.
uh,
Dominant tackles was Fabian Holland on 18. It's
oh,
not many
there
for
you
the
go.
top, eh? They harsh to give that out.
That's another stat from from the locks. So for us, you can take that one as well. Dominant tackles. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just pick the halfbacks off or something. You know what I mean? That'll get. Just maybe not Roygaard, as you said.
Guys, the last thing, I think the last thing that we've got to do is just talk about the actual position by position. So when you're going and selecting positions and when you're actually doing your draft, obviously, as you probably know from your draft style game compared to your fantasy game, you look at a few other stats. You look at, I think we spent a lot of time looking at value of last place, value of next picked. So basically saying like, if I don't take the first choice prop, who's the second choice and how many points am I going to lose from that? You know, what's the drop from first to eighth? I just wanted to go through. We might push on from that actually. Well, let's go to value increases. So I already said Nick Frost is going to be incredibly selfish this year and top it. Caleb Clark, I thought was another one for me. 22.2 average in 2025. The year before he over doubled that at 50 point average. So I think he'll be sky high again, surely.
with Mark Talea is gone. So yep, I think it's
Yeah,
a good
in
shout.
particular.
Yep.
I got Samasoni Takiaho as well. Just bought so many bench games last week. They just rotated him off the bench and then basically kept swapping their other two starting hookers. So he was a 40 average despite the fact that he was on the bench for probably 2/3 of his games. So I thought he'll be sky high.
one I like if he gets a crack would be Declan Meredith. Obviously, Edmund coming across is probably going to throw a big spanner in the works there. But I mean, whether he can play 15 with Righty out, but he only averaged 16.7. No, sorry. He averaged 33.4 in his 5 starts, and he had a 62-pointer in round 2. So if he gets some consistent game time at the back in that 15 jersey or in 10, he could also be a big climber.
And that's actually a great question for Frosty. Is Declan Meredith, who you did throw out there as a more fantasy suited player. Has he been training much in the fullback jersey? Have we possibly seen him there?
I don't think so. Well, not that I know of. I've only been back for 2 weeks.
Fair.
But nah, they've just been, alternating, 10, sometimes at 12, I think, just for moving around. But yeah, it's nothing sure set in stone this early out, or this far out, sorry.
Yeah.
Yep. Sweet as. Other players that we're thinking about big value increases, who we've got? Well, got Stephen Perifetta coming back. He hopefully can. He had a big average in previous years of 41.1. So hopefully, if he has an injury-free year, we could see him a lot at fullback and kind of swapping with Bodie, as we call him, Para-franchise. He was a player you build a franchise around. So we're hoping that comes true. Who else have you got, Harry?
I thought Jack Debrasini as well, coming over from the Brums as well. Chatting to Brett McKay maybe a week ago, and he was saying that he thought he was a pretty decent shot at actually getting the 10 jersey for the Waratahs. So with game time, I think that brings a big uplift in him. I can't say he's going to outscore Damien McKenzie, but I think he could go a lot better.
Have you seen anyone with a bigger boot, Frosty, than Jack Deb? Because I haven't. I feel like I haven't seen.
Yeah, no, he's got a fairly big boot. I hope he goes well. It was great for us. It was just hard when his back just wasn't going that well at all for him at certain points. So I think a few times he kicked the ball and he would go down and his hip was gone and that. So hopefully he's in better shape this year.
Yeah, sweet.
I don't
Harry,
know
do you want to?
You've written in biggest value drop. This was a bit rough to get Cross to throw some names out there.
No, we won't get him in there. The only names that I had were guys that had so much more competition in positions,
Yeah.
right? Like Marley Pierce has had a breakout few years, but he's got Sefar Garce coming in. Richie Asiata played the bulk of the year starting hooker for the Reds and had a huge average of 40.8. But now Fazla and Nasser are both fit. Jonah Lowe has got Jacob Radamatovuki Neepkins, he's got Tangatau, he's got Nareki, like he's just not going to get the same game time. And Teddy Wilson, obviously Jake Gordon will be back all year long as well, assuming he stays fit. So that's mainly where we're looking. It's just what guys that did get big game time because of other opportunities.
Yep.
And let's go through some of the team stats for 2025. Obviously, super important when you're looking at trends that might make you pick small differences between players that you think might have good years or bad years, good weeks or bad weeks. The stat that we always love talking about is you get like 20% extra if you play under the roof in against the Highlanders in Dunedin. Obviously, big news now. The Crusaders are opening their new stadium this year and will be obviously shown off in Super Round. But the Crusaders under the roof, mate, that could be like a 200% increase for the Crusaders and like a 50% neg on every other team going there. That could be some crazy changes.
It's as if like you could already almost lock in every Crusaders home game as a win, and now you just do, I guess. You just assume, what is it, 6 home games, 7 home games? That's just locked. You know what I mean? It's job done.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's crazy, but that's awesome. It's great to see. So, all the South Island derbies now under the roof, so it should be good. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So, mate, I'm gonna test you here. It's just me and you, so you're going to be under the pump. So, good luck.
Gonna get stitched
First
up
of
here.
all, who do you think scored the most tries? Which team in Super
Look,
Rugby 2025?
it's got to be the Chiefs or the Crusaders is what I'm going with, and I'm just going to go with a smile is telling me that it's not, but
It is.
yeah,
It is one of those two.
it is okay.
Yeah.
Good. So I'll flip the coin. I'll say it's the Chiefs.
Chiefs 81, Crusaders 79.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Who,
yeah.
who had the most clean breaks?
Yeah, and I'm going to go with the Chiefs here. They just that kind of team.
128 to the Chiefs, 121 Hurricanes, 111 Crusaders. So yeah, they've got again, mate. Well done. Who beat the most defenders?
This one I'm going with Highlanders purely based off Tavatavanawa, which could be wrong, but
And Caleb Tangatau. Highlanders in fourth at 366. First place was the Hurricanes in 443. I think you might have forgotten
Okay.
about Kinninaholo and the Hurricanes back row.
and yeah, that's fair.
And fell as
and
well.
Roy wasn't even playing really.
No,
Was
he was playing.
He was. Okay,
he
and
was
Roy
playing.
there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair.
Who had the most
Um,
carries? Just monopolized possession.
I feel like most carries will be okay. It's either Crusaders or I was going to say an Australian team maybe, but I'll go with okay, Australian team is give me the hit there. Probably the Brumbies then.
The Brumbies, mate, well done. 2,197 carries, a whopping 9 more than the Chiefs. So, and then it was a little bit of a jump down. So the Brumbies, yeah, number 1 on carries, gained the most meters.
Most meters. That might also be the Brumbies. I just know because Tom Wright had like a zillion meters.
He
And
did
Corey
have a billion meters. They came third. Chiefs 7,814, 7,800. Most line out, the highest line out percentage success.
Was the Force that was crushing the line out?
It was. Well done. You're doing very
I've done more than
well.
honorably here. I've done more than honorably. All right?
88.6% success.
Yep.
The worst on the other end was the Fijian and Drua, 81.9%.
Yep.
Who had the most offloads? This is the most important stat, mate, for fantasy picks. Which team will just give you points on offloads?
I'm going to go with Crusaders because it was Sevu Reece had the most by a long way. I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, but
Crusaders fourth. Top was Hurricanes 142, then Chiefs Highlanders.
Okay. All right. Well, Kiwi teams for offloads.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't tell you fifth. It was the Queensland Reds, but then the Blues. So there were 5 of the top 6. All right. It's a big picture. Which team scored the most points?
The Chiefs.
Chiefs 550. Which conceded the most points?
Probably.
I'll give you a hint. It wasn't the team that came last.
Yeah. Was it the Drua came last?
No, Highlanders came last.
I'm going to say the Drua.
Moana Pacifica, that finished seventh,
Oh.
conceded 544 points.
Right.
Way more than everybody else. I think second was 472, like 80 points more than the Western Force.
And would you think that that's going to go remain again in 2026?
Oh, it's going to start. Well, I mean, Artie Sevilla probably saved another freaking 100 points himself, to be honest. So yeah, it's looking shaky. And then last stat for the work rate stats. Who had the highest percentage of tackles completed?
I think tackles completed, tackles made. Gonna be a
This is
Kiwi
very
team.
tough. Lowest 84%, highest 89.3%. So there's not a lot in that.
Is it a Kiwi team? Give me the conference.
No.
Oh, well then, okay, fine. Brumbies.
Queensland Reds.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, highest completions. And Drua at the bottom on 84%. Right. Well, that is team stats. So hopefully that gives some people some insights. I think the big ones for me are the line-out success helps via locks, but offloads all day, mate. Come on. Clean breaks, offloads. That's what we're all about.
100%. Sweet. All right. Well, that takes us on to predicted top bigs. I don't know what I'm saying there. The top picks by position. So here we're just kind of looking at what's the gap between your very top average in a position and for however many, so let's say for props, the gap down to the last prop you'd get in your fantasy league. So your 16th ranked prop, because if you're in a league with 8 people, as we're using as an example, everyone needs two starting props. So we're going to look at it that way. So if we look at the top props,
I was going to say that it's probably worth noting that there's been a small change on these. We've realised something off the beta run that we had in the URC. There was an error on how it was calculating the rucks hit. So with that change, there are some small changes to this. You might see averages change by a few points, but ultimately the actual players are basically exactly the same.
And that's actually quite exciting news as well. So what that was we had a stat that we had added was giving work rate points, giving players ruck arrival points. So we do have the stats tracked for how many rucks do these players hit, both attacking and defensive rucks. And that's been really awesome in bringing up a few of the workhorse players that actually contribute a lot to a game but haven't been particularly valued, and it hasn't been reflected in the points. So we got a little carried away and we gave props, well, maybe it was me, props 1 point for every ruck hit instead, and everyone else 0.5 points. That may have skewed the props out a little bit too much, so we brought it back and we've kind of evened it now. So anyway, you might
realized that you'd won us over, mate, and you managed to get I think it was 11 props in the top 40 players or something like that. Like that was just out of control good.
How it should be. But no, all right, talking about the top props, obviously from last year, and unfortunately not here this year, but we had Angus Bell with 55.7 average. Old mate Belly killing it up in Ulster right now. We had Alaalatoa with an immense year, scoring loads of tries at 47.4. Oh, sorry, we don't need to read off the list, do we? But I guess the difference down the bottom is we have Reece Neck on 29.2. So that's obviously quite a big drop from 55.7 to 29.2. So I guess how many players are there above?
We won't go through the VOLP here, Craig. We'll get to that in a second. What we want to talk about here, this is our predicted top picks as well, right? So we have the rankings from last year on screen for those watching on YouTube. I said personally, I thought Alaalatoa was the clear option for number one for me. I thought his average last year was 57.5 actually. So a big up on his work rate, given his work rate at the ruck here. So he was already the top ranked. But on top of that, you got no Angus Bell. I thought Ollie Norris was set for a huge year. He was a little bit lower on the rankings. I think he's not even on this. Yeah, he's 7th on the screen as well. But just him actually getting so much more game time now, I think is going to be huge for him. And then I had Marcel Renata will probably jump up as well. And that was mainly based off the force that I thought Tom Robertson and Marley Pearce would probably lose some game time to HJH and Seth Agassi, respectively.
And Marcel Renata, of course, now not sharing game time with Angus Tarbow because he's moved on to the Highlanders. So that's part of why you saw that. Cool. All right. Well, that's props. So the only thing I'd add to that is I I see Josh Busatua continuing on to have another good year. So
His problem is that offers now come back from neck surgery. So I think he will go well, but I suspect that his minutes might go down a little bit.
Yep.
So obviously that hurts a prop.
do you want to take us through hookers?
Yep. Yeah. So funnily enough, last year's top hooker was Richie Asiata. I think he's going to have a drop this year, just purely based off the fact that he's now got two Wallabies fit and healthy ahead of him. It'll be very interesting to see how they manage that because Asiata was excellent in my opinion. But that's a bit of an embarrassment of riches for the Reds in that one. I said Samasoni Takiaho I thought would come up in top. He was scoring 1 point for every minute he was on the field. So if he had to play 80 points, theoretically, 80 minutes, he would have an 80-point score. He's averaged 39.4 points off that, which means he was only playing 40 minutes a game because he had so many games off the bench. Bradley Slater has obviously moved on, so they've got a little bit less depth. I reckon he was probably underdone last year, which is maybe why they were doing that, because he did start to get a few starts at the very back end. But I think we're up for a big year. He's been a top hooker in the game before. I think it could be easier again.
Mate, he was in my fantasy team last year and absolutely driving me crazy. But he was that good that I just kept playing him off the bench. He kept scoring tries in the second half, So I think you're bang on with that one.
Yeah.
Who else do you like in the hooker department?
Cody Taylor. I mean, again, like so many years, he's been the top. I thought, he's not coming back from a sabbatical. He hasn't got the year before. I think he had an injury as well for a lot of the season. So it's going to be his first full season in a long time. I think he might be a tiny bit slow to start in part of the All Blacks rest weeks, but after that, I think he'll hit his straps and he'll be right at the very top. Bradley Slater, I thought, as a bit of a smoky Ricky Riccatelli, was one of the top performing hookers last year. I think he actually was equal top when we broke it all down with the updated scores, and now he's at the Blues. The Blues have Bradley Slater instead. So remains to be seen if he ends up as the only first choice hooker if they do share time with Kurt Eklund. But expecting big things from him. And the other news I had was Billy Pollard was equal top with Ricky Riccatelli on our updated stats. I just think Lockie Lonergan being fit and healthy again. I think he's come back from a ACL, I think it was. Can't remember. Could be wrong. We'll be on the casualty ward, but Lonergan, an excellent a hooker as well. So obviously that could hurt his minutes.
And look, I know I'm not going to get into Smokies, but one player I'm throwing out there, you've just done it based off data, but I'm throwing this out there entirely based off the picture that just came out recently, Asafa Almua. He looked the most jacked I think he's ever been. And this is direct from what Nick Frost was talking about last week about he had a serious injury and just had a lot of time to work on himself, a lot of conditioning, and he looks immense. So I think this could be the year he comes firing back. So that's Cargie's hot tip on the hookers.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. He's a big boy at the moment. You want to take us through the locks?
Let's do it. The locks. So we had an interesting one here on the change with rucks hit and things like that. But topping it, we had Tubo Vai and Nick Frost, who we talked about a lot with Nick, that his goal is to get that one position higher. But now that we've actually changed the stats, it actually ended up Seru Uru on top. Like last year, we did have him as a back rower. This year, he's playing as a lock. And so based off being a lock, he actually ends up coming top of the locks with a 58-point average above Tupo Vai on 55.9, Nick Frost on 53.4 with the data increase. So pretty exciting to see those guys there. And I think, Harry, you were just going on about how valuable Seru Uru is going to be this year.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing to hurt Seru and why I wouldn't make him my top pick is the fact that I don't think he's actually starting in the locks or the back rows, but I think he's probably the next man in for all five of those positions. So to me, he's like the most valuable bench option you could probably have, because when he starts, he could be the best lock in the game, and he'll probably start half the games. Like it'll just rotate through. But, he's got LSL and Canham starting ahead of him in the locks. He's got Bryle and Wilson and McWright. And, there's a few players around in the back row that'll probably start above him as well. So he may be above Bryle. I could be wrong. And he could just end up playing 6 all year, despite the fact that the Reds have gone out of their way to name him at lock. But I do think that the Reds' relative lack of depth at lock this year with the loss of Blythe and Ryan Smith as well, I think that's probably where he'll mainly be used. But Yeah, he's a very, very valuable pick.
100%. Another player we've talked about in the previous pods, last couple of pods, has been Josh Beery, the beekeeper. He had a 0.7 points per minute. He was very big for the Blues last year. How do you think he's going to go this year?
Look, I think he's going to be massive. If you look at his points per minute, he's equal first. So Seru Iru and Tupavai both have a point 0.8 score point per minute. And Berry's the only other player with that as well. So the thing that hurt him was the fact that he was really just contesting with what's his name?
McArdle.
No. The Blues are the Blues are the kind of second.
Is Tui Pelotu?
Oh, it was McArdle. Sorry, you're right. It was McArdle. My bad. Yeah, so the fact that he was competing with McArdle and Tuipulotu obviously had just had one jersey himself. So Tuipulotu out for a period of time now. I think from a pretty bad shoulder surgery, I think Beery's going to be in for some big minutes, which means, mate, he's going to be in for some big points. I think he's a top 3 lock this year.
Yep, I agree. Have we got anyone else to talk about? Oh, we do. Sorry, a big one. I think that you and I are very excited about this year.
Our
New
smoking
Waratahs
man.
cap. Is he smoky? Is he smoky, or are we prepared to say he's going to be great?
Okay, he's going to be great. He's going to be great.
New Waratahs captain Matt Phillip. Harry has called upon the old stats of him back in the Rebels, because we remembered a year that he was absolutely immense at the Rebels. He had a 35-point average in 2020 on the old system, which didn't value particularly some of these work rate things. And if there was a player that hits rucks and is a work rate player, it's Matt Phillip. So if we can say he's getting another 5 points on average a game or something for that, then we're looking at a 40 point into the 40s.
Considering how many rucks locks hit, they're actually picking up and line out steals as well as the new stat on there. Locks are actually jumping up like 10 to 15 points commonly in their averages. So that takes him from 35 to 45 or 50, which is up there right at the very, very pointy end. So I think he'll be like a top 4, top 5 lock, quite possibly, if he still has the engine.
And I think we can say from not being in the Wallaby squad last year, he's going to come out and being the Waratahs captain, he's going to come out and be playing immense game time, or week in, week out. So could be some really good value from Matt Phillip, and could be really pushing those top locks.
Yeah, absolutely. Back rows. My number one is a bloke that had a very slow start to last year. He's going to jump up a fair few spots, and that is Charlie Cale. Well, I'm just looking. I don't even see him on this list. Am I blind on the the sheet? I think Nelson may have missed him or something.
The new updated stats, mate, is he's third. Well, he's third, but he only played 4
games.
Well,
I think what it is Nelson might have cut him because of the fact that he only played 4 games. So it was probably a little bit of a harsh thing to put him above. Yeah, there you go. Nelson's put on his graphic there, minimum 5 matches, so he's kind of just missed out. But he's got the third highest average, 66 points. Tazano was 67 with the most tries in the comp, and Artie Severe at 72 being the most freakish player we've ever seen in a comp. So in other words, Charlie Cale was ridiculous, and that was coming back from an injury and being a bit underdone. So I suspect, in my eyes, he's probably the number 1 back rower. I'm really trying to find a reason to say he's not. I think he's the number 1 back rower, personally.
Huge. What about try scoring machine Carlo Tazano?
I just don't know that he can score as many tries, to be honest. Like he might, and if he does, he's a top 3 back rower. But to be the top try scorer in the comp by a couple of tries, I think it was from memory, he scored like 11. I just don't know how a back rower can do that 2 seasons in a row. Everyone will be waiting for him to be having a go close to the line now. So I think that'll drop a bit. He'll still score some tries because he's very effective on the line, but I think that'll come back a little bit. And then Samisi Tupou was immense all year long for Moana as well. I think he's in for another big year. And Harry Wilson as well, an obvious choice, just scores so much on his work rate as well. He was, 5th last year with Noati. That puts him in top 4 straight away. So some big names, mate. Some big names.
That's it. And look, will we see, that's the word I'm looking for, a comeback from Hoskins Tutu? Of a couple of years prior. Look, he still was in the top 10 with the stats, but what do you think? Like,
it's definitely possible. I suspect we won't, not to the top 3 or 4, just because I think his game's starting to go away from the huge work rate of carries that he used to have. He's still very effective and an outstanding player, but I suspect he'll be in that next rung down. I'd still love him in my team, but yeah, I'm going to tip him not to be in the top few. Last season before he goes overseas, I think he's pretty good chance of being picked up by the England squad from what I've heard. So yeah, I'm just not sure where he's at, if he's got the drive to top it this year, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I would hate if he went over and played for England, but
He
the
will.
only thing I would like
I'll
about it
tell you
is
now,
that
he will.
the only thing I'd like about it is if he then plays ahead of Henry Pollock, though. I'd be happy with that. That'd be fine. But
I've heard some rumors, mate. He's basically been given the ticket.
it's a done deal. Yeah. All right. Well, other players, Smokies. Look, they're not really Smokies, but Smokies too, possibly top. Like could have even bigger years. Christian Leo Willie, All Black Christian Leo Willie had a big season for the Crusaders. Looking to build on that again this year. Under the roof now, et cetera, et cetera. And then Moana Pacifica captain Miracle Failangi. He's just been immense. And so, like we said last year, you couldn't believe how much size he put on that frame and just how much of an absolute unit he is. And so I think another year in, taking on the captaincy, kind of some more assured game time, I think it's going to get even better again this year. So who knows where he could end up.
Yeah, I 100% agree, mate. Like he should be big. He should be really, really big. I'm really excited to see what he can do this year.
Cool. Scrum halves. It's pretty easy, the top scrum half, as Harry finds the picture for that. But the question is not only the top halfback, but is he the top overall fantasy pick, Cam Roigard?
Yeah. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I've just contradicted my own thoughts. I was going to say no because Tate McDermott, the reason that Cam Roigard is the number one pick in my eyes is because his value compared to the other halfbacks is so far ahead. I'm just looking at Nelson's graphic and I've realized an error you'll pick up in a second, and I'll leave that to the YouTube followers to see. They can probably work out what's missing. But the reason that he's so valuable is because when you compare him to the second place halfback and then the rest of the field, a bigger jump again, he is so far ahead. Now, that gap is much smaller last year than what it has been in the past. This, was 61 for Cam Roigard. Second place was Tate McDermott on 54 points. I suspect they'll be the top two again. There are some excellent other players in there that are pushing as well. Before we go into them, though, the reason that I contradicted my own thoughts before I said it was because Tate McDermott's coming back from a proximal hamstring rupture, I believe. Like, it hasn't been said that way in the media, but he had an operation. So it's an upper hamstring operation, which that's all I can see it being. So that's like a 6-month minimum injury. I think he's still a way off. He's only talking about just starting running at the end of Jan, which to me means he's at the absolute earliest coming back end of Feb. So I reckon he's like mid-March, which means you get 4 weeks of just Cam Roigard being like 15 points better than the next halfback. All of a sudden, he's looking like a pretty good first overall pick again.
That's all I can gather from that information is that Cam Roigard would be your first pick if he comes around to you. But
can I contradict myself one more time just to make things harder for everyone?
Let's do it. Why not?
Casualty ward, we've talked about the fact that some of the heavily used players in the All Blacks won't be back until round 4. Beauden Barrett's publicised. We've heard rumours of Will Jordan being the same, although that's not out there yet, so I don't know that that's factual. Cam Roigard's an obvious another one that might miss 3 weeks. He played big minutes for the All Blacks. So if that's true, and I'm talking about his big plus being 4 weeks ahead of Tate McDermott, all of a sudden he's back to square. So maybe a bit of a punt there.
You've just taken you've taken the listeners on a journey there, Harry. It's been, we've gone swings and roundabouts.
This is my brain, mate. This is what I'm trying to pick, and people wonder why I can't make a pick in 2 minutes on draft night. The panic about all these things swirling around.
That's it. Look, and then some of the other guys, we said Nathan Hasty had an absolutely ripper season when Fakatava was injured for the Highlanders, and I think he started one of the halves at least for the Force in the trial in which they just pumped the Brumbies. So I'm assuming he had something to do with that when I get time to watch some of it. So look, he's certainly fighting. Who is it? Moyano for the Argentine international for that starting berth. But Yeah, he could be good. And then Fakatava, of course, again, just in there, the Highlanders. We think he has immense potential. Noah Hotham, there's a bunch of guys
Yeah.
who could go that step further this year. Um, you've got, we've got, we've talked about this before. We've got drop Teddy Wilson, had a very high average, but Jake Gordon, back to stay. You'd have to imagine, can't really see them both sharing game time. Jake Gordon, Wallabies scrum half, so Teddy Wilson on the bench. But if what we can say for sure is if Jake Gordon gets injured, Teddy Wilson's your man. You want to pick him up quick smart. So
Yeah, absolutely. The other one I had as a bit of a smoky off the points per minute, I don't think I said in our other segment earlier, was Taufa Funaki for the Blues. Obviously has to fight Finlay Christie for a spot. But mate, his points per minute is right up there with the highest players. I think he's point 0.7, which is what is he? He's even with Folau Fakatava, Noah Hotham. Like if he's starting, he's maybe not the top tier, but the next rung down as well. So I think he's a good smoky pick. Or maybe he's the double, the Rev double where you pick Finlay Christie and him, and then you just roll them out.
that's it. All right.
Fly
Well,
halves.
taking us on to fly halves. Let's do it. DMAC. I mean, look, do we just make this real simple? Say you want DMAC or Bowden Barrett, otherwise move on. Is that it? Is that job done? Or
Yeah, we're going to talk about depth in positions shortly, but basically, yeah. I did have in there the guys that I'm looking to come up. Ruben Love, newly transferred as a fly half now that they're discussing that being his position. Ben Donaldson in 2024, he had a 49-point average, which is only 2 points behind Bowden's last year's form. So he was pretty much on par. Last year was a bit quieter for him for the Western Force. So I think if he continues to find his feet there at the Force, I think he's the bolted on 10 for them now. He could come back up and be a real top tier nudge. And then, honourable mention is Rivez Rayana was very good as well. So he's actually third on overall averages as well.
yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't have. There's no James O'Connor around there now, so it's still an all-out battle, him and Taha Kamara, as we talked about. But he could go a step further again this year, so could be good.
What about your mate? Come on. What about Andrew?
Andrew, who was
Isn't he playing fly half for the Crusaders this year?
New stub? No, he's at the Highlanders.
Oh, sorry,
Seventh
mate. Sorry.
Yeah,
I got excited because he plays for Christchurch.
They have another 10, but it's James White,
That's
who
right.
was playing fullback for the Crusaders in the trial, the second half of the trial. I didn't actually see much of him, but no. So
Other movement, Matt,
uh,
I had Tom Liner dropping with the obvious Carter Gordon coming in. And on that note, I thought Carter Gordon worth a mention as a smoke. If you go back, look at his averages. I had him at a 40.9 average before the increase. So I suspect that that'll put him a couple of points up, considering fly halves don't hit too many rucks. But automatically that means that he's in the conversation with the top guys.
yeah, absolutely. So if he can get that game time, could be anything, Carter Gordon. So speaking of Smokies, Declan Meredith, we did say in the last week's pod that we thought he might be playing some fullback.
That might
as
actually
well.
come through that might actually come through on this pod from Nick Frost, to be honest with you. He told us that he hadn't been training there when he was at training, and then immediately he's named at fullback in the trial. So
That's true.
that was good fun. But yeah, look, if he's a good chance to play at 10 or 15. Obviously, got to battle with Ed Med for the 10 jersey, but scores very, very quickly when he's on the field. So scores tries, loves to attack the line. I think a very good smoky shout.
Absolutely. I mean, look, what Nick said, he's a fantasy fly half. It's more so than Ed Med. So
Best
someone to
case, I
decide
think
on.
he's up there as like a Ben Donaldson level if he plays week in, week out, which is
100%.
solid.
Yeah, yep. And otherwise, the last smoky to talk about is always, we say it every year, is he the Prince that's promised? Stephen Pera franchise, Perafeta.
There can only be one, mate, and you've already given that over to the Blues.
Meredith?
To Spencer.
Oh, to Peyton Spencer. That's true. All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
Para franchise is not the Prince. That's Peyton Spencer. But Perafeta looked 41.1 average in 2024.
It was I think it was like 4 in 2025 for the record. Like it was not good.
So it's just, again, can he play how much do they rest Bowden? Trying to keep Bowden back for the World Cup next year. Who knows? So
I'm
if he gets some
shortchanged
time,
him. His average was
yeah.
8, so it was double what I said.
Oh, mate, that's double exactly. Come on.
He's huge already.
Yeah. And then look, the other last smoky, sorry, I'll chuck out again is Patrick Pellegrini.
Yeah.
Just for Moana, had some immense, like some really good kind of weeks for Moana, and he ended up on an average of what was it, 29.3, or what he ended up on
32.9
32.9.
on the new system, 0.6 points per minute, which puts him even with Rihanna and Love, basically. So that's
Exactly.
right up there.
All he needs is more consistent game time, I guess, to flourish. And as we said in the previous preview pods, he'd been playing really well for Tonga as well, actually, over the off-season, Super Rugby off-season. So
Maybe it's just been me being pessimistic, but I can't see how he could be that good again. Like, he was mind-blowingly good.
yeah, I can. No, honestly, just because he had some really good form in the Pacific Nations Cup, playing for Tonga. So I could see him going a step further this year.
I hope so.
And also, he's got Laumape to throw those inside balls to now. So
Yeah, that's another 20 line break assists for the year,
yeah.
right?
Look, how many he can throw the dummy so easily now. You throw a dummy, what's that person doing? Like, or well, actually,
Yeah.
maybe they're always tackling him, so they don't have to tackle Laumape. Actually, to be honest, they don't care.
You got to back the confidence of the player. Does this guy want to tackle Mape? Because if he does, he's definitely going for him. If not, I've got to give him the ball. All right, centers, mate. Let's push along. Centers, Billy Proctor and Timothy Tavatava-Nawai. I'm going to put it out there and say Proctor slightly edged Tavatava last year. I'm going to say Tavatava-Nawai wins the whole thing this year for the centers. I think it'll be close, but I think Proctor might just pull back a couple of points again. He was career-defining awesome last year in fantasy footy. I just think he might come back a little bit. And then I've got Quinn Tapia as my other option. We had him at 5th on the ranked sheet. I think he might have even been, he's 6th on the stats form, but that's because Riley Higgins played 4 games and killed it as well. So I think he's about 5th, but I reckon he's my best shout to jump up to top 3. Just when he's on, he's so damaging, and I think he's been back to his best.
Yeah, mate, mine's Joseph Akuso Suali'i, my first pick last year. No, I just think the sky's the limit with old mate. I think he could be the top at the end of this year. Who knows? I mean, we have said we're not overly confident in the Waratahs' ability to win Super Rugby Pacific 2026, but who knows? It's just turns out how they use him and how much ball the Waratahs can give him. I think he could have an even better year this year. So
he's playing games again in the interview. They're saying he's training at fullback, wing, and outside center. Like, I think they're going to use him in the center, man. He doesn't have many centers, and there's so many outside backs at the Tars right now. My worry is that him going from fullback to outside center will hurt his actual scores. We saw him in the Wallabies struggle to get involved nearly as much as when at fullback he kind of enter whenever he wanted. That's my worry for him. You should pick him first. You should, though.
Thank you. That's good. And otherwise, look, Josh Fluke. He's also someone that is looking absolutely jacked. He's looking in some career best shape. So
I had him as a drop as well, man. I actually had him as a drop because he scored again just so many bloody tries. He only played a few games. He just kept scoring. And then the other thing is you got Dre Pacquiao and Hunter Paisami looking good. You got potentially Carter Gordon shifting to the 12 jersey. And then that's not even to mention the young Frankie Goldsborough that was injured through the year last year as well.
And Isaac Henry, actually, he was starting in the trials there as well.
Yep. And Trayvon Pritchard, mate. Like, there's so many. So I don't know, like he could, like we say all that, and he could just play 13 all year long and score more tries. He does have a knack for being in the right place and running an excellent line, but I just think he has to work harder for his points than a lot of the centers, and he was very good last year.
This is a good point. This is Cargie clearly not reading the notes with the line of drops, and I've just been talking up all the players Harry's saying are dropping. So I just saw Josh Fluke, and then I remembered the picture of him in an interview recently. He's looking absolutely huge. So I got excited, but no, that's fair. Thank you for countering all the players I just brought up, Harry.
What I have realized in the depths of analyzing this, the guy that I picked as in my top 3 for overall fantasy picks, I haven't named in my top centers.
Well, would you like to do it now?
I would. Ngani Laumape was always going to be a top choice, obviously. I said he'd be top 3 in the comp in my tips. So my worry is that I think the back end of his career to date, he hasn't had the same workout as he did when he was young. Kind of like a Safar Moore, the same. Like a Moore, you weren't allowed to tackle the guy in his own head. He was going to beat you every single time. Whereas now he's slightly more mellowed. So if that's Lamape this year, then I think he'll drop a bit. But if we get Lamape of old, hungry to carry Moana over the gain line, I think he will be unbelievable.
Well, as we've described, he's going to need to. He's going to need to step up and be the bloody whole back line. So
Yeah.
that should be good. And otherwise, Geordie Barrett, JB, can never count him out. So back at the Hurricanes, 37.8 average in 2024. Yeah, I mean, short of all back rest weeks, he'd be starting in the Hurricanes every week. He's the first picked player in the Hurricanes line. And so who knows what we could see from him. He could have a huge year, and he also could be one of the reasons you were saying you might see Billy Proctor dropping down a little bit, just having JB inside him.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. There's some freakish players in the centers this year for sure.
Yep. Outside backs. Caleb Tangatau, player in your fantasy team last year, off the log. How good? We've just said he's the most fantasy player of them all in that when you're watching him, he's never passing and loves an offload. He's designed to be a fantasy footy player.
Yeah, I agree. It drops a little bit. Like there's a few of the players in the top that aren't there anymore. But I thought Jonah Nareki is worth an honourable mention. Like he was scoring incredibly quickly when he came through last year, back to his best. I think he was scoring, zero point 0.7 points per minute, which is very, very big. And I'll say as well, Jacob Ratamatavuki-Nitkins, 2 years now that when he's been playing, he's looked exceptional. So I hope to see both of those guys right up the top, and I think they could be top tier or second tier at worst.
Yep. And look, we can't talk about outside backs, and all you've done is mention the Highlanders outside backs so far. So
am I that transparent?
Yeah, absolutely. No, look, Caleb Clark set to have a big year. We think Mark Talea no longer there. Caleb Clark had a 50.5 average in 2024. Big drop down to 22.2 in 2026. 2025. So we think he'll have a big upswing back the other way in the Blues this year, and see him really going strong. And then Crusaders outside backs again. Sever Reece, Will Jordan. Crusaders under the roof, as we said, are going to be immense. And I guess I don't know if we talked about it earlier, but we are just saying that Lester Fainganuku, we are moving him to a centre. So that's an exclusive scoop on the pod, but we'll
just another centre to add to that depth. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was just saying to Harry, I was watching the trial for the Crusaders a little bit today, and even just some of the backs from their wider squad that they brought up. There's a guy named, I'm going to butcher his name, but it's like Nick Sowery, who just looks like another Sever Reece, young guy. He plays 15, but even more of a playmaker. Thought he looked unbelievable in that second half. So, and Kunawave as well. Oh God, he looked at home in Super Rugby level already at fullback. He looked incredible. So the Crusaders just can pluck them out of anywhere. But yeah, who else do you want to talk about in the outside backs, Harry?
Oh, look, I think they're not Smokies, but I think they're a risk, and that is basically the Chiefs' outside backs. So Kyron Tamoifalau, he was already up in the top tier. Well, not the top tier, sorry, I shouldn't say that, but he was already excellent last year, the last 2 years. For Moana Pacific, and now at the Chiefs, I think you'll get more opportunity. They, as we've said, they run the most meters, they make the most line breaks, they score the most tries. So that's like plus for his points. His issue is he's got so much competition. There's 4 or 5 of them that'll be pushing for a spot. So in the same breath, we've said Eteni Nanai Saturo we see as maybe the most likely to struggle to get game time between the two of them. But it could be any of them. They could just rotate through. So when they're starting, I think they're great choices as guys that you can hopefully hold on your bench or sub in and out if you're lucky enough to do that.
Yeah, and I think from that, we probably talked about it before, but I think Tumofalau is wing only. He's just playing wing. Nanai Saturo in the trial they had in the first half anyway, it had Tumofalau on one wing, Liam Coops-Fabling on the other, and Nanai Saturo was at fullback. So Nanai Saturo and Narawa have both played a fair bit of fullback. moving around. So, and of course, Leroy Carter is an out-and-out wing. So it might be interesting that it's Narawa and Nanai Saturo that swap between the fullback role and a wing. But yeah, it's roll the dice, with those Chiefs outside backs. You kind of you want them, but I guess if you had to pick an order of having them, you'd probably go Leroy Carter first, and then work your way through the rest, right? So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or what's your order, Harry? If you had to pick in those top four Chiefs outside backs, what order are you picking them in?
From a fantasy perspective or to play?
No, for a fantasy perspective. So, including will they play? So if you were picking them as
Leroy Carter 1.
Yep.
I think he's the most confident. I'd be the most confident. I'd probably go Moni Narrow second. And then it's flip a coin, to be honest with you. Whoever I can get.
Yep, for sure. And then look, I mean, the only other player I can't let us having left talking about outside backs without talking about Keeney Naholo. I'm hoping he just builds on last year and goes even better. So he ends up with our updated stats being what? Third actually, with 52.8 average last year. If you don't count Junior Rotuva, who
With his
had
one
one
game.
game with 66.5 score. So yeah, Keeney, I think is we were worried about him. Like last year, he had pretty consistent game time. And I think now it's very clear that it's Keeney on the left wing and Fahi Fingananofo is his kind of backup, is what I would say. Like they're two players in a similar mold. And they've got so many right wingers with Josh Morby, all these other guys. So, but I think Kenny Naholo was so good last year that his left wing is his spot, and if the Hurricanes go well, he's going to be one of the top scorers again in the top three again.
I hope you're right. The reason that I didn't mention him earlier is just because the Hurricanes love to not pick their best outside backs like Ray Arcee. How many years did we just watch them not play him every single week, despite being one of, if not the form outside back in the comp? So their selections just get me. But he could definitely be right up the very, very top. Mate, let's go. I want to talk about two things at once here, so we can kind of hopefully not feel like we're going over and over again. I want to talk about value of last picked, and then from there I want to talk about like how many top tier, kind of what the depth is at each position. Because when you're drafting, I think the thing that makes an experienced drafter or separates a good experienced drafter from a new drafter is you don't just look at averages. You want to try and look at what is the drop if I don't get the first prop? How big is the drop to the second prop and then the third prop? So what's the value of next picked? What's the value of the second picked? And then what's the value of the last picked, first to the 16th prop in an 8-man league that gets owned, because you're talking about starters. No one cares about the bench in your initial draft, really, to be honest. So if we look at that and we go to props, to me, I look at the props are one tier and then everyone else. And that is, you take Alaalatoa. He's 5 points above second at Tom Robertson. I think Tom Robertson's going to drop. So he's at least 5 points. Really, the next prop down is Slipper on 47 and Renata on 47. So he's 10 points ahead of everybody else. So he's a huge pick, with which I think he needs to be valued well above his average. And then to me, you go from Slipper and Marcel Renata. There's 12 props, or there's 11 props down to a 40-point average. So you only lose 7 points by not picking the second prop and instead picking the 11th prop. So I would be going first Allan really early, then no one for a long, 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 long time.
Yeah. And I guess, though, the only giving you a counter argument to that is Allan was amongst the top try scorers last year with, I think it was 8 tries. And that's counted significantly to his score. Do you think? I mean, is he going to be scoring a lot of tries again this year? Is he going to maintain that? You know what I mean? Like,
my gut is for a prop, the way he scored them was always the pick and drive. He's worked out how to get low and use his body. I've seen lots of props lose that. HJH as an example, he was very good for a couple of years, and now he doesn't seem to have that in his game anymore. But Allan's physical shape and discipline and headspace and everything else, I don't think that's going to be an issue for him. The only question mark is over his back injury at the moment, which is a bit of an unknown how long that puts him out. So there's risk there, but that's probably it. I
Yep,
would say,
no, fair
yeah.
enough. Otherwise, I think you nailed it. Yep.
And the value of the last picked, I should say. So Angus Bell, sorry, not Angus Bell, Allan Alaalatoa on 57.5 points. Then your last pick, the 16th picked, we have down as George Dyer on 35.3 points, which is a 21.8 average. So what that's saying is if you don't take the first one and instead you get the last one, there's 21 points per week that you lose out. So that is significant, and it's probably in the middle of the depth and the scoring range of some of the positions as well. So I guess it'll hopefully help to weigh up the comparison of positions.
Yep, nailed it. All right, let's move on to hooker. So for hooker, we had top of the log, Billy Pollard in there. This basically, I think what we're saying with hookers, there's about 5 hookers. So if you're in a league of 8 fantasy teams, you want to get one of those 5 hookers. So who are those? There's Pollard, Takiaho, Cody Taylor, Asafo Mua, Matty Faisler, and Harry's just going on and adding in Folau Faringa, or a plus or minus Folau Faringa. Do you add him in?
Yeah, well, I think he just scores a lot of tries. And I think when he was at the Brums behind there rolling more, he scored very well. Remains to be seen if the Waratahs with a very new pack can do that. I suspect they won't do it very consistently, but he's a good scoring hooker. So I would say that probably is 5 top scoring, and then he'd be the next cab off the rank 1 tier down.
Yep, and doing the VOLP value of last picks, there's Billy Pollard on 47.8 at the top, and we've got Matty Faisler at 8th with 35.5, and so there's a 12.3 point gap between that. So the gap for props, for example, was double. So not as huge, but you still, I think you want to get one of those kind of top 5 hookers. You don't want to be stuck getting, otherwise forget about it and pick them at the end, sort of. So,
Yeah, I agree. For locks, we've got 8 locks in our kind of target range at the moment. We've got Seru Iru on his 58-point average down to Josh Canham at 45 points. It is a slower drop off on this one. Like we just tried to look for where you would try and draw a line. It's just a steady drop from point to point to point. To me, there's 2 top locks of Tupovai, Nick Frost, then maybe Seru Iru because of his depth. Then it does jump. So to me, you want this top 2 or 3, and then after that, you've probably got another 8 or so in a block together. But again, that VOLP, that drop from 1st to 16th pick for locks is 12.9 points. So similar to the hookers, it's low, which says to me, if you don't get your first 2, Nick Frost, Tupovai, or you don't want to take a risk on Seru Iru, then I would leave them alone after that point in your draft as well.
Yep, and of course, sorry, the only extra thing there is, which affects the VOLP, is adding obviously another at least 10-point average every week to Nick Frost, because now he knows that he's being played scoring and will be more selfish. And
that's right.
So,
that's right.
But
good man.
Now the VOLP for lock then also comes in at 12.9.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you've already said that one. Yep, cool. So
back rowers, mate.
Yep, sure. We've got some 7. I think we think there's about 7 back rows you just simply have to have. So we've got Charlie Cale, Carlo Tizzano, Samisi Tupo, Harry Wilson, Christian Leo Willie, Hoskins Tutu, Miracle Faialangi, and they're your top back rowers kind of. So back rowers is the position where, giving away all of Harry's strategies, Harry tends to fill his team with back rows very quickly in the draft, because you need 3 of them. And it's easier to find outside backs, which you also need 3 of, that score well, than it is back rowers typically throughout a competition. So,
and not to mention, I think because they get so many points on work rate from rucks, tackles, and runs, that they're consistently good. Like they'll score you 50 points every week, whereas an outside back will score you 71 week and 30 the next. So that gives you, if you're relying on your outside backs, that's 1 win, 1 loss in a head-to-head game. Whereas hopefully the back rowers get you 2 wins because they gave you 2 solid scores.
Now, like that said, like we've said those 7 players. There's plenty of other players that are going to be really good, and that you have to add in there your Wallace Satiti, your Rob Valentini,
Fraser McWright, Peter Lakai, Eli Kanakovata.
Exactly.
Lots of good players. We're not saying don't pick anyone else, but we're trying to say when you're sitting in your draft, how many are you going, I think I need to get a couple of them, one of them at
Yeah.
least? I would say there's 7, and that is because I've
I,
got Tizano, Kale, Tibbo, Wilson, and then I've got like the guys that are potentially going to come from nowhere and be in the top. That's it.
100%. So I think that's it. I think you have to try and get yourself one of those 7 players. If you're Harry, you're going for 2 of them.
Basically,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
really.
looking at the VOLP, the difference between Carlo Tizano on 67.8 points and TK Howden on 35.2 is substantial. So it's a 32.6 drop for the value of last picked. So, we said Props was pretty big on
Triple our
21.8.
hooks and lock.
Yeah, exactly. So if you wanted data to bring Harry's point home, that's it. That's not the top vault, but it's close up there. So,
But again, as you said, that is magnified by the fact that you need 3 of them. So that doesn't happen once, that happens up to 3 times. So your back rows consistency is huge. The top guys are so good, the middle's okay, and the bottom it drops off a lot. So what you don't want to be left with is picking your third back row as one of the last. Like if everyone else has got 3, you're screwed. You really need to pick your third back row while everyone else is looking to get their second.
and also on that, it's the value as well of having a player that starts week in, week out. Now, obviously, there's All Black rest weeks, Wallabies rest weeks, and things like that. But if you've got, one of the most frustrating things has been that Hurricanes back row as an example. That last year, Braden Yoss, they've got these great talents, but you want to pick the players that are definitely starting. So in our preview pod, we've said, Duplessis, Karifi's in there, Peter Lakai probably are your locked in starters, and after that, it's who knows. So that definitely weighs in. But yeah.
Yep. Scrum halves, mate. It's we've talked about it a little bit. Roygaard, Daylight, McDermott, Daylight. So really, Roygaard, one of the top picks in the game. Just depends on his All Blacks rest week for the first few weeks. But I honestly, I don't think that should devalue him too much. I would think that you'd carry him for 2 or 3 weeks to have him for the rest of the season. It's pretty obvious. We know he's not going to play more than 6 games in a row. I haven't looked at his bye weeks for the Hurricanes yet, but maybe that costs him 1 extra game. So I would think he'll play most of the year after he gets going. It does drop. Then after Roygaard and McDermott, it flattens out a little bit. You got that like so Hasty, Fakatava, Hotham, Radamar, all together. And then it kind of drops away to Lonergan, Gordon, some of the other guys there. So the VOLP is huge on this one. It's 32.2 points. But that's because Cam Roygaard has a 61.2 average and Ryan Lonergan has a 29 average. So it's because the top tier is such a big jump away from the others. You don't have to worry about the difference between first and eighth in halfbacks. You need to have to worry about the difference between first and second and third. Then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things where the halfback and fly halves have got to be right up there in the top of your draft order, basically. So
yeah.
And they'll go in the first, second round of the draft. So you're definitely not getting both of them. So put it that way. And that takes us across to flyhalves, which same thing. We've already discussed it. Bowden Barrett and Damien McKenzie. Of course, DMAC there with the top average of what did DMAC end up on? He ended up on
67.4.
67.4. Yep. And so Bowden Barrett then on 58.5, and then a substantial drop, another 10 points down to 48.
Yeah, so we could rinse and repeat the exact same message on this one, really. The flavour of the month for the halves is the same. Damien McKenzie, then Daylight to Bowden Barrett, then Daylight to everybody else. So you either want just the first one or you have to try and snag the second one to have a huge advantage in that position every single week, or you should be pulling points. The next tier down starts to flatten out. You got Rayana, you got Love, you got Donaldson, you got Pellegrini. There's a few smokies that'll be in and out. We talked about Gordon tonight as well, but realistically, it's one of those ones that it just goes from one player, top 2 between McKenzie and Bowden, and then that's it. I think I might have just lost Cargie for a second here, so I'll give him the opportunity to come back in, and while he's doing that, I might just push on into the centres. And so to have a look at the centers, I've got, again, it's funny, the centers seem to have so much depth, but at the same time, it's still going to be a case of, Tavatava Nawai, Billy Proctor were so far ahead last year. I think I had them 12 and 13 points ahead of the next, or even so, it's more than that. It's 15, 16 points ahead of the next. So they're huge. I think the question is, can Tapaya, Fainga'anuku, or even Suali'i close that gap? I would not be putting on my money on them to close that gap. I would think if you want to try and take an advantage in the centers, you're going to go earlier on one of those two guys. I reckon you can probably snag Proctor around later than Tavatava Nawai, but I think that makes him a better value pick. Again, your VOLP, your value of last pick, 37.1 points between Billy Proctor at 65.1 and Lalamilo is the 16th ranked center at 28 points. So it does drop away a lot. You've got the top two, then you've got your next block of 4 or so players, 3 or 4 players. Then it really starts to get to slim picking. So I would say you really want one of the top 6. If you're in an 8-man league, that means you can't afford to be the last guy picking the center.
Yep, for sure. And the only other thing, without drowning on about it again, is you can throw Lau and Geordie Barrett in there as, who knows, could be top performers. So there's not the data there.
Yeah, that gives you 8. That gives you 8, doesn't it? So maybe try and bag, if you want to go hard in your centers, you could even get two early. Take one very early, and then you've got this freedom to try and snag one of the guys like a Tupaya in a 5th or 6th round. Like it's all of a sudden a pretty good position to be.
Yeah, 100%. Outside backs, so you've done the vault for that, 37.1. Outside backs, Caleb Tangatau, what did he end up on? 56.6. And if we let's just go straight to the vault, all the way down to Finn Hurley on 31.8. So it's a 24.8 vault for outside backs. But again, without drowning on, outside backs, you need 3 of them. So always a good idea to try and fill those in, to get 2 of those, while you can. Harry, who we got for the top players in the outside?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of named them a little bit before, but you got Tangatau, you got Naholo, you got Radamatavuki Neepkins, you got Nareki, Sevu Reese, Will Jordan. Then your next tier down to me is your Leroy Carters, Potter, Havili, Jorgensen, those kind of guys. So there's depth in probably the first 10 or so, and it does start to drop away. Like if you start looking at like a Jonah Lowe, Johnny McNichol, Matt Greeley is the next tier down, Corey Toole. Like I really don't want one of those guys as my top outside back, considering I need 3. So I think you have to go hard to take one of the top 6. You should try and go hard to take 2 of the top 10 if you really can. But obviously, I've said that a lot of times, and you don't get double the picks of your opposition. So if you're going to go loose on the outside backs, then you're going to go harder somewhere else. But yeah, if you want solid outside backs and you want to be watching the guys that are throwing offloads and scoring tries, I think you should try and take 2 of the top 10.
That's it. So Harry's advice is take 2 of the top 10 in a few different positions and just somehow figure out how to do that.
Yeah, that's right.
Sweet. Well, that takes us through the vault, which I'll be honest, Harry religiously drafts off the vault. Some of us just like a bit more gut feel, just a bit more instinct. But that does show why Harry has won our league too many times to count. So six times,
yeah.
So
stats don't lie.
That's right. Hopefully, look, we've just given away all the strategies to the draft. So hopefully you listen up and see if there's any further insights that you can come up with yourself from looking at the data. Of course, on draftrabbit.com, on looking at Super Rugby 2025, looking at last year's stats, you can sort by all the different columns to try and see is there any particular stats that you think makes a player a little bit more valuable that they're likely to do again or set themselves apart. So, but as an overall picture, your VOLP and your averages, points per minutes are things that are really good to go by.
Yeah. And I don't know if we've said it. It's part of the Draft Rugby Pro package when it eventually gets released, which we're getting pretty close. We're probably not going to have it done pre-season, but I think, Cargie, you said we might try and, if we can, get out the detailed stats as a bit of a free release promo just to try and get it out there for people to be able to use it for their drafts. But in season, when we have it fully functioning, we'll have that locked away behind Draft Rugby Pro. So if you want to try and use that information to make your trades through the year and stay ahead of the curve, then I think the combination of those extra stats as well as information like the casualty ward is a big advantage.
100%. So, yep, that takes you through the VOLP and the picks, and on to the next.
And I think we also had Smokies based off the points per minute. George Bell, he was on 0.9 points per minute, 42-point average across his 8 starts in 2024. I mean, obviously Cody Taylor's still there, and Cody Taylor is a phenomenal player. But if they start to give him a bit more rest time, or if there's an injury or something there, George Bell is going to sneak in, and he could be a big one.
Thanks.
Sweet. Who else we got? We got Kirk Eklund. So he could be. He had a 0.8 points per minute, and a 50.7 average. So now with a little bit less competition, he's just got Bradley Slater in his way. So we could see him finally kind of reach those heights again, which could be good. Harry, who else have you got?
I thought Mordecai Murray for the Fijian and Drua as well ended up playing a lot of 7 for them. Again, 0.6 points per minute, which has him right up there with the top back rowers. The 3 games he started, he had a 44 average as well, so it was massive. So if they do keep playing Salawa at 8 and he can take the 7 jersey, then he'll be very big.
Yep.
I
Nice.
think we've already thrown to you, Frost, on that. But an interesting one when we're looking at points per minute for a Smoky, Reece Van Neck. What did he come in at? He came in at 5th last year with 1.1 points per minute. And I think it's because he didn't play too many minutes, potentially.
Yeah, right.
He played 263 minutes, but I don't know where he's getting his points from. Maybe it was just some scrums. And is he doing some work that, fantasy players need to be watching out for? Or is he just a top 5 merchant?
I think he's getting he's making his money's worth with his double points on carries and tackles.
Yeah.
That does help a fair bit. Yeah. No, obviously with Allan out for undefined and probably majority of the opening rounds. We lose Allan, so we've got Neki, we've got Tavita, who's another young prop going through. So they'll probably see a fair few minutes out of Neki as well.
That could be another Smoky for this year.
Yeah. It's probably, in general speaking, there's always a Fijian that pops up. I don't know who it is yet. No one knows who it is yet, but it's going to be.
I reckon we've got him. We talked about him in the Hot Shit podcast, didn't we?
Nasova, one of the there's going to be a center in the Drua who we think is going to absolutely take
Joji Nasova, straight out of the Sevens program. We think he'll take the 13 jersey.
Yeah, there's always a few, and they're unbelievable.
Yeah,
They are.
just coming in absolutely nowhere from our radar, at least, and just bursting onto the scene. Cargie has a very strong tactic of if you're Tongan, Samoan, Maori, or Fijian, you're getting picked before anyone else. It's just a risk.
It's a points multiplier for him.
Yeah. Well, we've had you on here for at least an hour and a half almost, Nick Frost, mate. Thanks for coming on. Hopefully we can get you involved in playing some fantasy footy, maybe with a few of the boys, but good to have you on board. Thanks for coming.
No worries. It's been great to speak a whole lot of different fantasy things and have some good chat. Thanks for having me on.
That's it, and we hope we can grow Fantasy Rugby Union and get people who can enjoy that as draft style competition as much as we all do for other sports and things like that. So thanks for joining us and talking about it, and we're going to give it our best to grow it and see if you can be number 1 this year. If we have to pad the stats a bit, maybe we will. So.
Yeah,
we did guarantee any players coming on will boost them massively.
Yeah.
Frosty, just before you go, if you pick me ad, because it's gonna come to fruition in no time.
Oh,
for sure.
yeah.
We're making money. What's your pick me ad? Is it jumping over a building to catch a plane or something, or what are you doing?
Yeah, well, it's probably obviously going to be somewhat rugby specific and based. So, yeah, we'll do something niche around the line out. Yeah, it could be jumping, could be catching something up there, but make it fairly reasonably unrealistic and then see what happens.
Perfect. Well, we'll come to you first.
Yeah.
Cheers, mate.
No worries. Thanks,
Thanks,
lads.
Frosty. Cheers.
All good. Take care.